You guys see the title, you know why you're here. This next story is a true story. It should be used as an example of what are the possibilities when dating, visiting, or traveling around the world. Watch or listen to this while you're driving, cleaning, on the train, at the gym, or just getting things done. Grab yourself a drink or a snack. This is a story you don't want to miss. Stay until the end. This one is a banger. Here it goes. My name's Pierre, and I've been through a lot in my life, but nothing hit me like the end of my marriage. Sitting here in this crappy apartment in Europe, I can't help but feel like I'm in some kind of limbo. It's been almost a year since the divorce, but it still feels like it just happened. I've got this deep, gnawing ache in my chest that I don't know how to shake. It wasn't just the divorce itself, it was the aftermath, the loneliness, the second guessing, the loss of something I thought was forever. I look at the clock and it's ticking just a little too loudly in the silence of this place. It's an old apartment, cold, too small for a guy in his late 20s, and furnished with nothing but the bare essentials. The walls are bare, no pictures, no decorations, just a bed, a desk, and a shitty couch that I only sit on when I'm too tired to go to bed. I never thought I'd end up here. I thought I'd be married forever. That was the plan, at least. But plans change, don't they? Claire and I, we were that couple, the ones everyone envied. We met in college. She was funny, smart, and beautiful in that effortless way. You know the kind of beauty that doesn't scream for attention, but just pulls you in? I thought we were perfect for each other. Maybe we were for a while. But somewhere along the line, we lost it. It's crazy how it all happened so slowly that you don't even realize it until it's too late. We didn't fight, we didn't have big blow-ups or anything, but we just drifted. We stopped talking about real stuff, the kind of stuff that holds a relationship together. The late night conversations, the shared dreams, all of it started to disappear, replaced with silence and distance. I tried to fix it. I tried to plan romantic getaways, try to talk about our future, but I always felt like I was the only one invested. And when I asked her about it, it was like hitting a wall. She'd say things like, "I'm just tired," or "I'm not feeling like myself." But I could see it, the lack of interest, the quiet withdrawal. And then she left. Not physically at first, but emotionally. I don't even think she realized how much she was gone until it was too late. I know I didn't see it at first. I was too caught up in trying to fix things, but once I started seeing it, I couldn't unsee it. Finally, one day Claire told me she wasn't happy. She said she felt like we were just going through the motions and that we needed to separate. It crushed me. She already made up her mind, and that was the end of it. No big argument, no shouting, just her saying, "I think we should get a divorce." It wasn't immediate though. There were the months of awkward living together, figuring out how to split our things, how to handle our finances, and how to tell people. It was like living in a dream where everything was muted. No matter how loud the world was, I couldn't hear anything. Then, to make it worse, she met someone else. And I saw it happening too, slowly at first. Texts, late nights out, and then one day, she dropped a bomb on me. She'd been seeing someone else. It wasn't just any guy, he was the guy at her new job. The one she'd been talking about for months. I was crushed. I was angry, and most of all, I was hurt. The woman I thought I'd spend my life with had already moved on. I moved out of the apartment, trying to hold on to whatever dignity I had left, and ended up in this shitty place. It was a transition, I guess. I spent months just sitting around, drinking too much, playing video games, pretending like I didn't care. I did care though. I still do, but it's hard to admit that to yourself when you're the one left behind. When the one you thought would be there forever isn't anymore. And that's when Martin called me. I've known him since college, and he's always been the one to push me to do stuff I wouldn't normally do. This time he pushed me to take a trip with him. He had been telling me for months that I needed a change of scenery, and after the divorce, I was in no position to argue. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know if I was looking for anything at all, but the idea of getting out of this rut, out of this apartment, out of the city, I jumped on it. That's how I ended up booking a flight to Thailand. I wasn't looking for anything serious. Hell, I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, but a new place, a new experience, a change in pace, that sounded good. When I landed in Bangkok, I was immediately thrown into the sensory overload that is the city. It's loud, it's chaotic, it's colorful, and it's nothing like the quiet, orderly life I've known back home. There are tuk-tuks everywhere, honking in the streets and people shouting, and the smell of street food through the air. It's like a living, breathing organism, constantly moving, constantly shifting. I'm not gonna lie, I was overwhelmed at first. It's a different world over there, but in a way that's what I needed. I need to step out of my comfort zone to escape the familiar, to forget the pain of my past, if only for a little while. Martin and I stayed near Khao San Road, the backpacker district. It's loud and crowded, but it has a certain energy to it that's hard to ignore. Bars, street food, tourists everywhere. There's a sense of freedom here that I haven't felt in a long time. The first few nights we just drank, ate, and wandered around the streets, getting lost in the chaos, but then one night we found ourselves at a massage parlor. It wasn't like I was looking for anything other than a massage, but something about the place, bright neon lights, the hum of air conditioners, and the muffled conversations in the background made me feel like I should be here, so I went inside. That's when I met her. Her name was Fawn. She was the one who gave me my massage that night, but it was different from the others I'd gotten at various places around the world. She didn't make me feel like a tourist. She didn't treat me like just another customer. She made me feel like I mattered. And that was the first time in a while that I felt like I actually mattered to someone. She wasn't like the others in the parlor. She wasn't overly trying to sell herself. She wasn't trying to get anything from me except maybe a conversation. She was quiet, polite, but also surprisingly funny when she did speak. We talked about everything. The city, her life, her family. She told me that she was from a small town called Udon Thani. She had a son. Her life wasn't easy, but she made it work. It felt like we connected, and when the session was over, she gave me a smile that stuck with me long after I left the parlor. I didn't think I'd see her again. I didn't think much of it, but a few days later, I found myself back at the same place. I didn't even need a massage that time, but just, I wanted to see her, you know? The second time I saw Fawn, I felt like something had shifted. I didn't know how to explain it. It wasn't just that she was beautiful. I mean, yeah, she was stunning, those dark brown eyes, her soft, smooth skin, but there was more to her than that. I'd been around a lot of women in my life, some of them just as beautiful, but with Fawn, it was like we were on a different wavelength. I don't know if it was the way she listened when I talked or the way she seemed genuinely interested in my life, but every conversation felt like it mattered, and that was a feeling I hadn't had in a long time. That second time I went to the massage parlor, I didn't even have to ask for her specifically. As soon as I walked in, she gave me this soft, knowing smile and led me to her private room like we were old friends. The usual routine played out. I laid down, she started working on my shoulders, and we started talking. But this time, it was different. We weren't just exchanging pleasantries anymore. We were talking about real life. She told me more about her family. She said that her mother had passed away a few years ago, leaving her to take care of her father and younger brother. She talked about her son, who was 4 years old, and how difficult it had been to raise him without much help. It was clear that her life hadn't been easy, but there was a lot of resilience in her that I admired. She didn't seem bitter or angry. She seemed like someone who had accepted her circumstances and was doing her best to get out of it. And that's something I could relate to more than I wanted to admit. After the massage, we went for a walk along the river. It was hot, sticky hot, like Bangkok always is, but there was something peaceful about the evening air. We talked about the future, or at least she did. I wasn't sure where things were going, but I couldn't help but feel like she was trying to paint a picture of life that included me in it. She told me that she didn't want to stay in the massage parlor forever. She said she dreamed of opening her own business, something simple like a small cafe in her hometown, where she could be close to her family and raise her son away from the chaos of the city. I told her I admired her for having a dream. Honestly, it was the first time I'd heard anyone talk about the future with such certainty in a while. Most people I knew back home, including myself, had no idea what their futures would look like. But Fawn, in her own way, had it all figured out, or at least she knew what she wanted. I'm not gonna lie, I found myself getting sucked in. It wasn't just that she was beautiful, it was the way she carried herself, the way she could make a small conversation feel like it was the most important thing in the world. I wanted to see where this could go. I wanted to know more about her. And so, I started coming around her more often. I stopped by the parlor for a massage, but eventually, it became more than that. We'd grab dinner afterwards or go for a drink, just the two of us. The more I got to know her, the more I wanted to know. It wasn't just the physical attraction anymore. It was everything. It was her laugh, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her son. Eventually, I got the courage to ask her out on a real date. No massage involved, just a night out. I wanted to get her away from the parlor, away from all the pressure, and spend time with her without any of the pretense. She agreed, but of course there was a catch. The boss of the parlor wasn't too keen on letting her go for the evening. She'd have to pay a fee to get the night off. That should have been a red flag, I know, but I was already in too deep. I paid the fee without hesitation, wanting to prove to her that I was serious about getting to know her. We went to a little restaurant by the river. It wasn't fancy, just a small local spot, but it felt right. We ate simple Thai food, talked about our lives and plans for the future. It felt easy, comfortable. By the end of the night, I knew I wanted to see her again. And I did. I saw her every chance I got. And the more I saw her, the more I found myself falling for her. It wasn't instant, it wasn't love at first sight, but the more time we spent together, the more I realized that this was different from anything I had experienced before. It's funny how quickly things can change, how quickly you can go from feeling like you've found something real to suddenly questioning everything. After a couple of weeks in Bangkok, I had to leave. I had to head down to Phuket for a business trip, some work I couldn't avoid. And as usual, I felt the sting of not wanting to leave. Not just because I'd missed Fawn, but because I started to realize something. I didn't want to be alone anymore. I didn't want to be in the same old cycle of work, loneliness, and distraction. I wanted something more out of my life. While I was in Phuket, my mind kept drifting back to Fawn. I messaged her as often as I could, even though I didn't want to seem needy or obsessive. But I couldn't help myself. Every time my phone buzzed with a message from her, it felt like a small victory. A connection even from miles away. I started thinking about her more and more. She'd send me pictures of her son, little snapshots of her life back in Udontani. She'd tell me how things were going with her family and how she missed me. Even though it was just messages, just words on a screen, it felt like we were building something together. So when I got back to Bangkok, I was eager to see her again. It had been a few days, but it felt like much longer. And when we finally met, the chemistry was undeniable. We picked up right where we left off. It was easy and comfortable. The kind of thing you could only experience when there's a real connection between two people. But as much as I wanted to believe that everything was going smoothly, there was always that nagging feeling in the back of my mind. It was like I knew deep down that something wasn't right. Fawn wasn't always as available as she used to be. Her messages became less frequent. When she did respond, the conversations felt less personal. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid. After all, she had a life outside of me. She had responsibilities, a family to take care of. I tried to rationalize it, but as the days passed, the doubt began to creep in. Why wasn't she as eager to see me as before? Why did she always seem so distant? And then it happened. I found out the truth. I don't even know how it happened. It was all so sudden. She blindly left her phone playing music from YouTube on the counter while she went to the bathroom. I immediately took the phone and slowly lowered the volume of the music so that she didn't notice a dramatic change, and then went directly to the text messages. It was a huge risk, but I was willing to take it, even if I got caught red-handed. I glanced at her phone, and there it was. The truth I wasn't ready to see. Messages from a man I didn't recognize. It didn't take long to put two and two together. The messages weren't flirtatious. They weren't overly romantic, but they were familiar. Casual, comfortable, like they'd been talking for a long time. And that's when I realized that Fawn wasn't just seeing someone else, she was still with her husband, the one she never mentioned. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't, but the next morning, I asked her outright. I was already dreading her answer. I didn't want to hear it, but I had to. That's when she told me everything. "Pierre, I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want you to find out this way. But I'm still with my husband. The money you've been sending, it's been helping him and our son." The world felt like it collapsed in on itself. I was a fool. I had been sending her money for months, thinking I was helping her, thinking I was making a difference. But in reality, she's been using me. And what's worse, she's been doing this with other men too. The man who had taken my place in her life wasn't just some fling, he was her husband. And the money I thought was going to her and her son was actually going to support their life together. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry at first. All I could feel was a crushing sadness. I thought I knew her. I thought we were building something, but it was all a effing lie. I left Thailand that day, feeling like I had lost more than just a woman. I lost my trust in people. I had lost a piece of myself. When I got back to Europe, I just wanted to forget, but it wasn't that easy. The lessons I learned in Thailand would stick with me for a long time. I realized how easily I had let myself get swept away. How desperate I was for something real, but the truth is, I wasn't ready for it. Not in the way I thought I was. I'm still figuring things out. The healing process isn't linear. It's not always pretty, but I'm trying, I'm learning, and maybe someday I'll find something real again. But for now, I'm taking it one day at a time. Okay guys, this is my perspective now. I think Pierre's story is the sad reality of dating in other countries and thinking that just because you leave the country you grew up in, that automatically any other country will be better. I personally can't even imagine going through all of that, thinking you found something real only to find out it was built on lies. It's easy to get lost in the hope of connection, especially when you're feeling down and vulnerable, but Pierre's experience really highlights and shows how important it is to take things slow and trust your instincts. It's a reminder that sometimes the things we want the most are the things that end up hurting us the most if we don't step back and look at the bigger picture. Pierre's story is a powerful lesson in self-awareness and the importance of being honest with ourselves. It's easy to get swept up in someone else's life and forget to check whether it's aligned with our own values. People can learn a lot about being cautious with their emotions, not rushing into things just because they're looking for validation or a quick fix to loneliness. At the end of the day, trust and authenticity are essential in any relationship, whether it's with a partner, a friend, or even ourselves. Do not let desperation cloud your judgment. Make sure to check out my previous video right over here. And send over a story of your own that you'd like to be featured in the next video. Subscribe, share, like, and comment. My name is Roberto, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.